So, movement and mobility for professional success. What does that have to do with the price of bread? It has everything to do with your leadership, mindset, and success. So, today is the launch of our PWT Success Connect weekly series with my colleague, fellow mentor expert, and trusted advisor, friend, colleague, and elbow elbow to elbow in the in the challenge to champion people's career leadership and the meaning of success. Youssef Skalli, founder of Scalability, and really the one of the pioneers and leaders of movement and mobility when it comes to personal success. Welcome, Youssef.
Thank you, Dr. Carolina. I'm really happy to be here and to start this chapter of movement and mobility, which is, when we think of it, it's our just continuous chapter in the way how we move today, and especially when we think about success. What does it mean, success? When we think about career, what does it mean, career? And when we
And
think of,
leadership for that matter,
yeah,
right? Is
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I'm really happy to launch together with you this, because we are approaching it not only from the classical aspects of mobility, which is the external move that we tend often to focus on, but we will be addressing it also from the internal move, what happens within us when we look at the mobility and the movement for professional success.
Yeah, and you're one of the well, you and I have been collaborating for a number of years now. And one day we'll tell you the story because it's like fabulous. And it was love at first intellectual exchange when it came to Yusuf and our collaboration, my collaboration. And but one of the things that I love right away when we met was that you spoke of executive mobility, and it
Absolutely.
goes with skill set mobility, it goes with mindset mobility, and we don't often speak about it enough. And funny that as we begin to shift the demographic of the workforce, right, where now millennials and Gen Z are beginning to really take on leadership roles in the workforce and in entrepreneurship. I consider entrepreneurship definitely part of leadership, for sure, right? Because you're a thought leader, you're a business influencer. And one of the things that, as a former CHRO, human resources executive, at the time of Gen Xers, when we were like, the top dog in the food chain, one of the biggest things were like gaps on your resume, right? Or that you change jobs too often. And that was seen as a negative, and it was seen with a bias. And now I keep reading articles that, if you're not showing movement every 2 to 3 years professionally, now that is the question. What
Absolutely.
makes you stand still in a position? Is it comfort? Is it, you know, conformity? Or is it that it's just such a fabulous role that is fulfilling your every need, personally and professionally and intellectually? Are you seeing a
Absolutely.
shift in how we think about mobility?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw it. I lived it myself. You did as well, and I see it with the people I work with. And one question that I focus on, and when I ask people that question, it triggers a whole new level of thinking and opportunities. And it's a simple question. It's just to ask, are you really designing your career by opportunities, by reacting to opportunities, or are you designing it for who you want to become, and who you are, and who you want to become?
Yeah.
And the first thought often is that people realize, yeah, I've been responding to as a reaction to opportunities. But
Mhm.
when I think of mobility, I really think of it as a triangle. There is the opportunity, absolutely, because if there was no opportunity, there won't be a movement and a mobility. But what does it mean, the opportunity? But then the triangle is opportunity, identity, and adaptability. And for
Mm.
me, those are the three pillars for the movement and mobility. And of course, each one of them, it can be a whole foundation behind it. Because if I take the opportunity, and you know that, Dr. Carolina, it's that the opportunity, again, within it, classically, we have seen in the past that the opportunity was a vertical ladder. That's where the
That's right. That's
career
right.
of the corporate ladder.
You're a good corporate citizen and you wait your turn, right? You pay your dues and you work your way.
Yeah, now I see shifts where the opportunities, and again, I lived it myself when I moved from finance to human resources. It was not, as per the corporate definition, an upward movement. Yet to me, it was an upward movement toward where I wanted to be.
I love that. Although it felt, and you and I, funny enough, have such a similar career
Yes,
scaffolding where we began in finance and then we, kind of either carry both portfolios or we switch to the human capital, right? So,
yeah,
and that's why we've been dying to get to this point for a months. You have no idea how many times we're like, we keep talking about this, got to be a priority. This has to be a conversation to be had.
yeah,
And you're absolutely right, because a lot of times people may not consider lateral moves because it
absolutely,
seems to is a lateral move. Like, what does that mean, right?
yeah,
But it's a different track. It may be a lateral move at the moment, but that brings about a catalyst that opens your mind and your skill
yeah,
set in the future and opportunities to places where you had not designed,
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
right? Like you had
absolutely.
not conceived, because a lot of time in I would like to think that I'm not a
I would
planner,
I wouldn't say to
because
places you haven't designed, to places you haven't think of, but you
you
ended
haven't
up
thought of.
designing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
exactly.
Because you said, when you were saying, about the opportunities may not be there, I have to tell you, when I was in corporate, like almost my entire career, the job that I got promoted to didn't exist.
Yeah,
Like, I created it and I pitched it,
same,
and
same for me.
I
Yeah,
was lucky, successful, I don't know, gutsy, whatever you want to call it, naive perhaps, but each time it worked, and it just, I went about it intuitively,
yeah,
and I was lucky, and lucky in a sense that, um I've, I've always had good communication and presentation skills, which is key, is absolutely key to
absolutely.
succeeding, to
Yeah,
getting closer to your definition of success, right? But don't be, just because the opportunity or the position doesn't exist, doesn't mean that there's not a gap that needs to be filled. And you can be the person that fills that gap, right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this is where the in the triangle I was describing, it's that the opportunity is really important. So it's not that it's not important. So when I ask the people whether you are reacting to opportunities or designing the career that it's aligned with who you truly are and you want to become and you believe in, the idea, it's not to undermine the importance of the existing opportunities, and also the opportunities that you may, as you said, want to create.
Mhm.
But the idea is really to just have the awareness of who is driving my career and what is driving my career.
Mhm. And that
That's
responsibility, if you think that
exactly.
HR, in I'm an HR, professional, um if and I say this with all the love in my heart, and so are you, a former, HR, we're, I guess, former HR executives. um if you think HR is looking after you or planning your development and career, yes, but
Yeah,
Yes, as long as it aligns with the goals of the corporation and the succession planning and the structure. If it doesn't align, you could be a miracle worker and you would still not be in line
absolutely.
for movement, right? We go back to
Absolutely.
movement.
Yeah, yeah. And then what does it mean, movement? It's I want just to go back, Carolina, to the idea of the external move versus the internal move, because that's, in my experience, was the catalyst of everything I have achieved in my career. It's the moment I realized that, well, okay, I am getting that promotion, I am getting that new job, but do I really want it? And what is changing in
Mhm,
me? What is
mhm.
what is changing in
Who
me?
do I need to become?
Yeah, exactly. When I decided to move to human resources, and it was by passion, like coming from the finance. I was a regional director of finance for a big corporation, and then the classical pathway was a promotion to a
More
division
finance.
VP, more finance.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was thinking of it, and I was like, what do I really want to do?
Mhm,
How do I enjoy spending my day at work? And what
mhm.
are the tasks? Then I said, well, if I go up, classical up, it's a nice title, it's nice paycheck, but I
Nice
may end
view.
up, yeah, a nice view, but I may end up doing less of how I like to spend my day at work.
Yeah. And
And
for
then
men, that's really powerful, Youssef. For
yeah,
men, that is huge.
and especially the move from finance to HR at that
That's what
time.
I mean.
Yeah, at that time, finance was seen as
A
this
a
male
pink portfolio.
prestigious. Yeah, exactly. And human resources was seen as the more women, female sphere.
Yeah.
But then the thought was, okay, what is my carry on? Because I like always to think of the move with carry on. As like you, we travel a lot, we moved a lot, and at the end, I like to think of, if I'm going to on a mountain trip or on a seaside trip, what doesn't change? What is in
Mhm,
my carry on luggage? So
mhm,
my values, my skills, part of my identity, not all of it, because
mhm,
it will shift, but mainly my values and my transferable skills, and then how this can be useful in my new environment.
mhm.
That's how I like to look at it.
And you know what? In don't I love that because when I was in finance, my last corporate career, thank you, was we were able to grow business within the supply chain from 11 million to 75 million, earmarked for 100 million, in the subsequent fiscal year. So we began to get a lot of pressure from the bank, right? Because at the time I was the CFO, CHRO, but I always saw CFO is not a finance accounting job. CFO is really business development, right? And seeing where the patterns, where the opportunities come in the future, and the development of leadership. Now the bank began to put a lot of pressure that the CFO of, and rightly so, the CFO of a company as 50, 75, 100 million company needs to have an MBA, right? At a minimum.
Yeah.
In As I said, rightly so. And having come from an accounting background, right? I went from, controller, director of finance to eventually CFO. Um, I did not want to do any more accounting. I kept looking at the program, at the syllabus of all the MBAs, and honestly, it would deplete my energy. It would dry up my soul when I consider not only doing more in business, but even studying it, like just getting through the studying
Yeah,
of any more. Now I wish I did, because there's areas of like the economy and things like that that I wish I understood better than what I do now. But anyways, I managed to shop it around and found an interdisciplinary master's in leadership communication, strategic change, and conflict resolution. And I managed to pitch that to the bank, right? And said, really, that has got more to do with leadership development than an MBA. Because we had the
yeah,
bank, we had a board of advisors in the finance area, including external accountants and auditors and things like that. So really, it was more strategic to do what I was interested in doing. And you know what? To my eternal luck, they agreed. And
but
again,
that's
right,
brilliant.
it goes with taking the ownership that you are driving these, right? And
Exactly.
at that time they were also paying for it, so they had to, the business was paying for it, so
Yeah,
they had to, something else you can negotiate. um I managed to make a successful presentation, and they agreed. And it was because of that shift that led me to the path that I changed tracks and that I am here today with you, right?
mm,
So,
yeah,
when I said you never know where you're going to end up, as long as you keep
yeah,
saying yes to opportunities, and yes to wanting to serve, and yes to looking at that bigger picture, it has to be a
absolutely.
win-win-win, Yusuf.
Yeah,
Exactly what you
absolutely.
said. It's got to be
Because
a win to the public, a win to you, and a win to the organization or the movement or the message that you represent.
yeah, exactly. Because uh, I your experience that you just described, it just shows that yes, opportunities creates movement in career. That's
Yes.
true. But
And movement creates opportunities.
movement creates opportunity. But movement alone does not guarantee a long-term success and sustainable success and fulfillment. So
Mm,
what you are describing, it's how opportunities open the door for you, but then you created the alignment with what you wanted
mm,
to do,
fair
with
enough.
what you want to do. And that's where I go to the identity part, because I'm sure from what you are describing is that there was a moment when you decided MBA versus multidisciplinary studies. It's that you asked yourself, okay, who am I as a professional?
Yeah.
What are my values, and what kind of impact I want to have? And that's when you that's what you described as deciding to go for the multidisciplinary, because first, before convincing the bank, you convinced yourself that
Well, I had
how
to convince the owner of the business because he was
yeah,
paying
exactly.
for it as well. But you know what? I could have been fired if I said no,
Yeah, but
right? Like,
you did an analysis that that was a risk worth taking.
oh yeah, and you know what? I'm not sure. Um, although back to personality and identity, um, I was good at finance and in business development, but they're not my natural abilities. Therefore, it takes a lot more fuel to be good at it,
Yeah,
and you don't
it's
derive
brilliant.
a small fulfillment, which leads us back to success.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. There is this simple exercise I like to do in my professional environment and my social environment, sometimes just for fun, that I ask people to tell me what they do without saying their job title. And most people
Mm,
struggle with that because we naturally identify with the job title, and we convince ourselves that this is our identity for life. So
mhm.
now I see that shift that's going, and this is where the idea of movement and mobility for professional success like really take fruition, because if we don't dissociate ourselves from that job title, because it's a script that has been handed to us, we
That's
have to
right.
we have to admit it. So you and I, we talk about what I call the manuscript modality, which is writing, taking the authorship of your next chapter,
Mhm.
which doesn't mean removing the past chapter. We don't erase the past chapter, but how we
We
can,
build on it.
how,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, how we build on them. And that's the idea, because even for kids, the the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? The answer, since an early age, it's a job title usually.
Mhm.
It's,
Opposite to, then we moved on to what problem do you want to solve,
yeah, yeah,
right?
absolutely. And
And
even,
even that has transformed since.
yeah, 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 exactly. And this is where I see like we're on the right time, right place to really talk about movement and mobility from a different perspective.
And
It's not,
success.
and so, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
because we tend to think, even though it has been shifting for years, for a couple of years now, but still the script is so strong that it comes with a tension, an internal tension. Oh, I'm not
Mm.
following the classical path. I'm not following that. So I might look weird. And you and I, we like to use simple language. We try to stay away from the from
From
the
jargon.
exactly. But I think that really today important is for us to help shift the mindset of what does it mean movement and mobility, and what does it mean success. And there
And
is no,
ownership. And
and yeah,
ownership,
and there
right?
won't be one single definition, but the most important thing is that what does it mean to you, what does it mean to me, what does it mean to each individual. That's completely different. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and to go with to anchor the launch of our Success Connect Career Confidential. And by the way, career executive, whether you are a rising star or a thought leader, business influencer, entrepreneur, right? A professional entrepreneur, an executive entrepreneur. Human up, right? Being intentionally human, which is
absolutely.
Yusef's anchor. And you know, I am so excited because being happy at work has, or with your, how you earn a living, right, with your vocation, has
Yeah,
greater impact in your life than anything else you do. It affects not only
yeah,
you but everyone around you. So we are excited. We thank you for joining us, and we'll put all the ways to connect with us. There's already over 2,000, close to 2,000 people who signed up for our Career Confidential newsletter. We're a LinkedIn based movement, but we do share on other platforms. By all means, subscribe to our newsletter, join our group, connect with Youssef and I, and subscribe to our channel. And in we're going to have lots of guests, and we're going to have answer lots of questions, and
yeah,
it's all about professional success, which Yusuf and I have been blessed that we never follow the herd. We were kind of, a little bit rebellious, and it has paid off tenfold. So we're hoping to share our
absolutely.
good fortune and in wisdom, and to learn, right? Learn from our audience, learn from our friends and colleagues, and explore the possibilities.
Absolutely.
So
And to all the viewers, if there is a specific question you would like us to address, just feel free to share it with us.
absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And until next time, thank you, Yusuf.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.